My name is John Hughes. I'm with LBSi. I'd like to welcome everybody to another installment of the LBSi webinar series. In this particular webinar today, we are going to cover SAP Business One Cloud, powering your business growth. Today's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about who LBSi is for those of you who are not familiar with us. We are going to introduce you to SAP Business One and do a quick demo. We're going to discuss a little bit the advantages of being in the cloud versus on-premise. We're going to talk a little bit about the cloud options and the big benefits, a predictable pricing model, and then at the end we'll open up the floor for questions and answers. LBSi is an ERP logic company business. We deliver local support with a global reach. So our SAP Business One practice is out of our US offices in Strongsville, Ohio, outside of Cleveland, and Dallas, Texas. But we also have a very strong international presence with offices in Canada, India, Europe, Israel, and Southeast Asia. LBSi has a lot of experience with over 300 successful SAP implementations around the world. Our expertise is mainly in manufacturing, distribution, service, but we also service many other industries as well. One of the highlights of LBSi and ERP Logic as a global company is our development factory and our ability to create enhancements to optimize the SAP solutions to more fit the needs of our companies and our clients. We are an SAP Gold partner. Not only do we sell SAP Business One, which is our focus today, we also sell the rest of the SAP portfolio for a mid-market or with a mid-market solution, SAP Business by Design, as well as the large enterprise solution, SAP S/4HANA. Many people wonder if they're a fit for SAP Business One. They see the name SAP and they think, oh, that company's too big for us. That is not true. For one, over 80% of SAP's portfolio is small to mid-sized companies. So it's not just for the large enterprise. Specifically to SAP Business One, we service the industries of manufacturer assembly, repair and job shop, wholesale distribution, professional services, retail, and then obviously e-commerce. The company profile is actually a very large profile. We manage companies on this solution, or they manage their business, and they're ranging in size from 1 million to 200 million in revenue, and anywhere from 5 to 500 employees. So a couple of the company characteristics that we usually share. A big one are companies coming off of QuickBooks. QuickBooks is a great way to start a business. SAP is a great way to, or SAP Business One is a great way to manage your business going forward. If you find that you're using a lot of spreadsheets to manage your data, you're certainly outgrown your QuickBooks. And the other great feature, and especially when it comes to SAP Business One in the cloud, you don't have to have an IT department. Okay. Next slide.
Okay.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn things over to Jerry Eisinger. He's our pre-sales engineer. Jerry has over 25 years of experience working with the SAP Business One product. He's going to do a fantastic job of showing this product to you. And certainly at the end, we will be able to field some questions for you. And we'll get started.
Okay, thanks, John. So to meet SAP Business One, again, the idea is to seamlessly integrate your entire business together. So across all your different business functions. The nice thing is, it's easy to set up and use and optimize. It's a product that's used in many customers. You can see we have over 75,000 customers using Business One today. And there's over 300 software solution partners. So what that means is what SAP does out of the box, There's all kinds of ways for us to expand beyond what it does out of the box to fit specific needs for customers. We have mobile apps. Again, that's very important in today's world to have the mobile apps to be able to access the system from anywhere. And the system can be deployed in the cloud or on premise. And it really, that's kind of the focus of today's topic, is to talk about in the cloud, because that is where everything is going. The vast majority of the people that we work with today now, they want to put SAP Business One in the cloud, and are clearly moving away from the on-premise implementations. Not going to go into a lot of detail here, but just to give you the idea of what comes with, out of the box with SAP Business One. It's a suite in the box. And again, these are the major modules that exist within their management and administration, accounting and financials. Financials obviously being the core of any ERP system, and Business One has a very strong financial module that's integrated to everything else that happens within the system. So as you make transactions in purchasing and in sales and in inventory and production, all of that is feeding the financial system properly to keep your financials accurate. And again, it does have purchasing modules, sales and service, inventory and distribution, production, MRP, project and resource management, and of course the solution customizing. There's a lot of flexibility that comes with Business One that we can do without customizing anything. But again, and that's part of again, a nice feature of that is how flexible it can be in configuring it to meet your business. But as John mentioned, we also have a development factory that if it does become necessary for us to build something, we can do that also. And then across the top, you can see that we have a web client that allows you to access that from any browser. Again, the mobile applications, the analytics and dashboards is a nice feature within there. And if you're a global company, if you're doing business in multiple companies and currencies, we can handle that as well. So that's kind of a high-level overview of what comes out of the box. But as I mentioned, additionally, you can expand Business One to fit specific, industries if necessary. So again, if you're a discrete or process manufacturer, we have add-ons that can help, enhance production scheduling or shop floor control or quality management. Or if you're a distributor, you can do advanced scanning and inventory optimization and shipping integrations and e-commerce integrations. If you're in field service, we have strong SAP field service management application for scheduling and dispatching your techs in the field. A very strong mobile app for collecting expenses and time and taking pictures and checklists and those types of things with the customer self-service portal. And if you're more of a job shop manufacturer, we have ways to help with job costing and work and process management and retail for point of sale and credit card authorizations and e-commerce. So again, regardless of what industry you're in, the Business One software out of the box is going to take care of 80 to 90% of everything that you need. And then we have add-ons that can help to take care of the additional stuff and make it specific to any industry. So what I'm going to do now is jump into a demo, and today's demo is not intended to be any kind of an in-depth demo whatsoever. I'm basically going to skim across the top and talk about some of the unique features of Business One. So what you're looking at here is SAP Business One with its dashboards turned on. So this is a cockpit basically. It shows different types of dashboards. This is the common functions widget where you can drag in the functions that you do on a regular basis to make kind of shortcut from going through the menus. The message and alerts overview, that's kind of like your Outlook reminder window, pops up reminders and approvals and things like that. This is an example of a process widget. So it shows the SAP sales process going from quote to order, delivery to AR invoice. And all these things are live. If I click on them, it's actually going to open up an AR invoice or whatever I click on here. Down here is an example of the process of the purchasing process. And then we have other kinds of dashboards or widgets, we call these. This is the counting widget that shows me all of my open AR invoices. Again, if I click on that, it's going to show me the open invoices, and I can drill right into them and see the detail. So from the dashboard, I can drill right into the detail. This is a key performance indicator, again, showing me inventory turns, net cash flow. And the significance here is the green means that we're trending upwards. So I can establish targets in my KPIs, I can establish trends, and I can see that information directly from the dashboard screens. There's dashboards that show charts and all kinds of different things. The idea is, out of the box, there's about 70 of these different that are available to you for use. And without configuring anything, you can begin using these KPIs and counting dashboards and whatever you need to help show your business. Some of the other things that are unique, again, there's a lot of canned out-of-the-box reports that come with SAP Business One, but people always talk about wanting to have, unique or ad hoc reporting, and this drag and relate feature is kind of a unique feature to Business One. So, for example, I can open up the drag and relate menu, and I've got a business partner screen open here. So let's just say, for example, I want to say, hey, what is this customer? What do they buy from us? I can literally grab this customer code, drag it over here on the sales order details, and drop it. And I've just created a report. So this ad hoc report just shows me everything that this customer has ever bought from me. Additionally, I could go even farther and say, hey, who else is buying these printers? I could drag it over here and should drop that on sales orders. And now I can see all the customers who have bought that printer from me. So the idea is, without knowing how to write queries or knowing how to do anything special, I can use the drag and relate feature to get reporting that way. So again, it's a real nice feature. And again, I'll come back to that business partner master in just a minute. Another unique reporting tool that I wanted to touch on just briefly is this Excel reporting and interactive analysis. This is a very unique feature to SAP Business One. And what this does basically is you can see there's many different reports, starting reports that I can run with. But what this does is it exposes the SAP data model into Excel and allows me to create pivot charts. So let's just say, for example, I think I grabbed the wrong one here. There it is. So again, what you can see over here on the right that the SAP data model is basically exposed out here, and I can just start using Excel just like I would with any other pivot table to start creating a report directly in here. And as I select the different dimensions, I can create filters from this data. I can choose what values I want to see. I can create, different categories down here. You can see I'm looking at it by posting month. I'm looking at net sales amounts and open amounts. Again, you can report on whatever you want to report on out of this data model. And additionally, if I wanted to say, hey, maybe I want to see that by business partner instead of by posting month, again, you just can, just like any Excel pivot table, you can drag that information down here and change the chart. And now I'm looking at sales by business partner instead of by posting month. Again, I've got the filter here to get it into what posting years. So again, without going into a lot of detail, this is a really nice feature. Another example of one is again, this is one that's just a data dump of the chart of accounts. And same sort of thing. I've got different data exposed, but I can create these pivot tables essentially just by using the standard Excel functions. So again, a real unique feature of SAP Business One. So now to kind of skim across the top, we talked about administration, really only used by power users in the company to set the system up, to do some system initialization. Nobody really uses that a whole lot other than just a couple of power users. In the financial module, you're going to find the chart of accounts. Of course, everything is linked to the chart of accounts as we make transactions in the system. This is an example of our chart of accounts that we use in our demo system. It has a natural account, and then we can have different segments for different departments or locations or divisions or however you want to define those. And you can have up to 8 different segments. So the segmented chart of accounts lets me map to different business units and locations and things like that. It's broken up into assets, liabilities, equities, revenues, and of course you have a couple of user-defined drawers down here. But the idea is the financials is kind of the core of the system. Everything links into that. So within financials, journal entries and journal vouchers, posting templates, 1099s for contractors, journal voucher reports, fixed assets, depreciation can be managed in here, budgeting, cost accounting, and then of course all this canned financial reports for balance sheet, trial balance, profit and loss, etc. Budget comparison reports. Again, it's a very robust financial system that gives you access to all that information. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. Again, this gets us into our business partner master. We'll talk about that for just a second here. So this is where you store all the information about your customers and vendors. So what you can see here is general information about your customers, the contact people, and all their contact information about everybody that you do business with there. All the ship to, bill to addresses can be stored in here. And then it goes into get into more details around payment terms and that type of stuff. It gets, again, very detailed into what we can store within here. The gold arrows mean that we have drill down capability to see additional information. So if I wanted to see the account balance for this particular business partner, I can see all the open invoices. Again, I can drill right into the invoices to see the detail. All the gold arrows, again, give me that drill down capability. Also within the CRM, directly from the business partner, I can see the related service calls or activities. Now, an activity is basically anything I want to record against this business partner. So it could be a phone call, it could be a collections call, it could be a sales call, it could be a task that I want to create for somebody to call this customer. But activities can be used to track all that information, opportunities, recurring transactions, or I can create those documents as well. Again, I also have this Customer 360 that I can look at that gives me a graphical, analytical view of everything going on with this customer. So here's a sales dashboard, fulfillment dashboard, a receivables dashboard. But again, it's just more of the analytics that are available within the SAP Business One system. So that's just a quick view of the business partners, customers, and vendor data that would be stored within Business One. We can also do some marketing campaigns, and then we get into some more tactical things like sales quotes and sales orders that can be created within here as well. Opportunities is really like a Salesforce Lite type situation. So if you wanted to track future business opportunities, you can say, okay, for this customer, I've got an opportunity going on. Here's when we think we're going to close it. Here's what we're going to sell them. I can track it through the sales process. Again, we would define your sales process within here. It shows me that I'm currently 95% done. I can track that through to the summary and whether I won or lost, my competitors and partners and all that stuff. So it's the idea of being able to create and track business opportunities within the same ERP system. The sales and purchasing, I'm going to come back to in just a minute. Those are a little bit more tactical. The business partners we already talked about. That's our customers and vendors. It goes into the banking module. Again, it is a financial system, so we can handle our incoming payments and deposits, outgoing payments. Again, if I want to do those things in mass, I can use the payment wizard. All the bank reconciliation, everything is done within the banking module there. I have inventory, so it's a full inventory management system. Item master, this is where we store everything that you buy and sell. Again, it can be inventory items, sales items, items you purchase. But the idea is we define those items. This is an example of a printer, general information about that, how I purchase this and my preferred vendors, how I sell that. On the inventory tab, I can see all my warehouses and what I have in stock and what's committed to purchase order, or I'm sorry, to sales orders or to production orders, what I have on order, on purchase order, what's available. I can establish minimum inventory levels and that type of stuff across all my different warehouses. My warehouses themselves, they can be bin controlled if we want, or lot controlled and serialized control for the products. All that information can be done within here. The planning data, I can define lead times and minimum order quantities and those types of things that will feed into our MRP, the material requirements planning functions, in order to help us make recommendations on what we need to buy or produce. So again, lots of information out here stored in the item master that's going to help us use the other functions within the system. As I mentioned, we can do barcode scanning. We have bin locations under item management, as I mentioned, serial numbers and lot numbers. Alternative items, if you have items that are very similar to each other and you could replace one item with another. Business partner catalog numbers. So if you have vendors who call your parts different things, we can create those cross references. So again, lots of features around item management. And then the full inventory control for goods receipts and inventory transfers and cycle counting for inventory control. All that stuff is managed within the inventory module. Very strong price list functionality for special pricing, special customer pricing, volume and discount pricing, a pick and pack manager to help with distribution and picking orders out of your warehouse. And then, of course, all the standard reports within there as well. Resources are primarily used only for companies who are heavy into manufacturing. So you can define all your resources that you use, whether it's assembly equipment or people. You can give that stuff capacity, say what shifts you're performing on, how much daily capacity you have. And then when you're creating production orders, that capacity is consumed to show you if you're under or over capacity within your resources across the plant. So again, that's primarily used for companies who are heavy into production. In the production module, we got bills of materials and production orders, again, issuing for production, all that kind of information. So again, if I was to come down here and show you an example of a bill of material, so this is a product that has different routing stages. So again, it goes through machining, then it's going to go through assembly, then testing, all the items that go into those productions. So this is the bill of material that goes into that, any resources that we're putting into that production. So that we're using, here we're using an assembly line, down here we're using the assembly machine, here we're using a testing machine. If you had resources that were people, again, you can define all that within the bill of material, and you don't have to use this either. So even if you're just a very light manufacturer, maybe you're just doing light assembly, and you don't want to use the routing stages, you don't have to, or the resources, you don't have to. You can make this as simple or as complex as you need. We can handle multiple level bills of material. So if you're creating sub-assemblies, that's fine as well. But again, this is where you define those bills of material, and then ultimately, then you would turn that into production or in a production order when it's time to produce that. So this is an example of a production order where we're going to, create a quantity of these items. And again, this would basically show us if we have the, as we're producing these, we got to make sure that we have everything in stock, that everything is out here ready to go, and that we can then, produce this. From here, we would release this production order to the shop floor and then complete the production. So again, if you're a manufacturer, that's really where the production module would come into play. Again, I could release this to the floor and then basically, either, go with a paperwork order or release this through to the shop floor for production. So again, just a quick snapshot of what the production capability is within the system. So that's the production module. We also have material requirements planning, MRP, and what that does, basically, that's going to look through, and I'm going to cheat here and go to the end screen. What this does is basically looks at all of the supply and demand that's within the system. So all the sales orders, purchase orders, your current inventory levels, it shows all the supply and demand, and it's showing all of the future supply and demand as well. And it's making recommendations for every part that we want it to look at, and it's making recommendations on what we should do. So for this part here, for example, you can see that it's telling us what our initial inventory is, what our supply is. If I click on that, again, this is basically showing me, hey, this supply is coming from this production order right here. So there's the production order that we have planned out there. That's supply that's going to be provided to us at some point in time. And then of course we have demand, and the demand is coming from this. In this case, it's coming from a sales order that's creating demand on the system. And again, if I look farther out in the future, maybe the demand is coming from a forecast. So here's a forecast that we've got that's creating this future demand out here. But the idea is the system will look at all of that information and make recommendations. And the recommendations are basically saying, hey, you need to create these purchase orders. And down here further, I'm probably going to get some production orders. So in order to meet the supply and demand that's within the system, this is the recommendations that it's making. Again, I can save those recommendations, go to the order recommendations report, and then actually act on these things. So if I wanted to actually create these purchase orders, again, I can click and select the ones I want, update that, and it's automatically going to create those purchase orders and production orders that I want it to do. So basically, it's handling all that information for me. So the supply or the MRP is used then to help keep your inventory levels at the level you want, and to keep the supply and demand within the system the way you want. There's a service module out here as well, so we can do service calls. Again, we can create equipment cards to show on serialized items. We can track all kinds of information about that item. We can create service contracts. There's a knowledge database for keeping track of all the things that are going on. So again, the whole service module for handling outside service. We have an HR module which is basically for employee master data. So again, we can track information about the employees, their administration on absences and education and timesheets and previous employment, all that kind of stuff. So it's really an employee master. It's not a payroll system. It's not a benefits management system. It's really an employee master for handling that type of stuff. And then lastly, there's a project management module. And again, this actually lets you create timelines and projects, sub-projects, and it's linked to everything that's within the system. So you can actually link this to purchases and invoices and things within the system. So you can financially track projects. You can have timelines, see the actual, project Gantt chart. So again, if you're looking for actually project management of either internal projects or external projects, you can use that, the project management function for that. And then, of course, the reports, canned reports for all the different modules that are within there. So again, I'm obviously skimming very quickly across the top of what SAP Business One is capable of. But as I mentioned before, it's a suite in the box designed to cover a lot of what every company would need to use. And then we can do things that are specific to the different industries, as I mentioned. So at this point, I'm going to drop back into the PowerPoint and talk about the advantages of on-premise versus cloud. So the idea with cloud, and again, as I mentioned earlier, most of our customers, the vast majority of our customers are now going into the cloud as opposed to doing everything on their own machines on premise. Again, what they're seeing is increased productivity, access to the real-time information, not spending all their time, working on their IT systems. They're really, spending more time working on the business and not working so much on focused on IT systems. They're also seeing improved security. We've all probably heard the horror stories of people being hacked with malware or some sort of ransomware. Again, the hosting companies that we work with are very stringent in cybersecurity, making sure that we're doing daily backups and we have offsite and multiple backups in different locations, doing the proper authentication and making sure that everything is working for you in the security realm. And also, the on-premise customers, when you have to every 5 or 6 years, buy new hardware to upgrade your current hardware as things, as any software is required to do over time. You see those spikes in the cost of your IT where you have to make those big capital investments every 5 or 6 years. In the cloud space, basically you're just renting that equipment and it's a consistent, predictable cost, and you're not worried about that. You don't have to have your own IT department. So the hidden costs of what it takes to support that hardware, to support all the IT, again, the cloud takes all that away and allows you to just pay somebody else to deal with all the headaches that go along with managing your own internal servers and IT organizations. The cloud options that we offer is basically a single or a cloud, our multi-tenant environment. So we're going to talk about that a little bit and what the differences are. So when we talk about the elements that are most important to the businesses, again, connectivity is you want to have access to anywhere, anytime with any kind of a device, whether you're on a Mac or a PC. Again, these environments give you that capability. The security that we talked about with authentications and virus and malware protection, making sure that you have valid backups. When we look at those two elements alone, it doesn't matter if you're in the single tenant environment or a multi-tenant environment. Those two are exactly the same in either scenario. So again, you're going to be able to access this from anywhere. You're going to have all the same security, whether you're in a single tenant or a multi-tenant environment. Where the differences come into play are in the next two factors is flexibility and scalability. So again, if you have a complex solution, you have lots of integrations or lots of add-ons, or you need to be able to, you want to be in an environment where you can, expand your bandwidth and expand your processing capability. That's really where you're going to be looking at more of a single tenant environment up here. And of course, if we're looking at the factors of cost and flexibility, the single tenant is going to give you more flexibility and it's going to be a little bit more expensive. But again, you're going to have that additional flexibility. And if you're in a complex environment, you're going to need to be in that single tenant environment. But again, this is your private environment. You can do whatever you want to do with this. It's like having your own private servers on premise, but somebody else is dealing with all the issues of establishing the hardware, of scaling it to the right size, of keeping the performance up to speed. And again, our hosting companies are very good at doing that. Same thing with environment control. You'll be able to, in a single tenant environment, control your environment so you can determine what versions, when you want to do upgrades. Again, if you want to add to the system or if you want to improve the processing capability, you have control over all of that. In a multi-tenant environment, there's not as much control with that. We have you and other customers are going to be in that multi-tenant environment. Although your data is very secure and separated from everybody else, you're still within the same environment within the hosting world. And so when we do upgrades, we have to upgrade everybody together, so you don't have as much control over that because the environment has to be the same environment for all of our customers, which is why we can't have as much flexibility and having lots of integrations and lots of add-ons. It's more of a standardized, simple environment for our customers who don't need all that complexity. But going in this fashion, you can get into this in a much more cost-effective way. So that's really the difference between our offerings. Is this is a little bit more of a less flexible, low cost environment. But if you're a simple environment, you can do this. You can do the multi-tenant. But if you're a customer who needs that flexibility and wants that additional flexibility and scalability, and in a more complex environment, you're going to want to be in a single tenant environment. But again, those are the discussions we would have as to whether or not you need to be in single or tenant or multi-tenant. You get nice predictable pricing with the cloud, and that's really one of the nice features of it, is that you can control the pricing by your user count. So the number of users you have is really going to determine the pricing. If you're in the multi-tenant or single tenant, again, that's going to create, determine what your pricing is going to be. And everything's included. It's all your software, all your cloud backups, all the security, everything is included in that monthly subscription. So the pricing is very predictable. It's locked in for what you're subscribing to. And if you subscribe for longer periods of time, you can get better pricing. So, so again, it's kind of the deal where if you sign up for 3 years, the pricing is better than if you sign up for 1, for example. And then, of course, there's some one-time costs for getting SAP up and running in the first place. So again, we have our implementation services to get you up and running quickly. And we talk about the scope of that. So, even though Business One does a lot of things, you don't have to do everything that SAP Business One does. You get to define the scope. What does your business specifically need to have? And we can pick and choose which things out of the suite that we implement. And so our pricing for implementation services can be tailored to fit whatever modules you need within the system. So that's kind of wrapping up what we talked about today. I know I've gone very quickly, and the intent was not to go into a lot of detail. And so if you're interested in learning more, what I would encourage you to do is go out to our website, LBSi.com. And if you look at the SAP Business One menu option and point at SAP Business One, again, you can see there's lots of more information out here about SAP Business One HANA, which is what we showed you today. SAP for distribution, for field service, or for manufacturing. And you'll see some of the very specific things that we can do for those industries. The SAP Cloud, which is the topic of today's discussion, you can actually see some cloud pricing. And if you're interested in learning more about SAP itself, you can go out and see some more recorded videos that we have for you. And there's also an LBSi YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and look for the LBSi YouTube channel, you can find hundreds of videos that we have recorded out there that will show you all kinds of additional information about that. And lastly, what we really encourage you to do is contact us. If you're very interested in SAP Business One, here's the contact information for John Hughes, who was speaking earlier, our sales manager. You can get a hold of John, and you can schedule a session with our salespeople, our pre-sales people, and we can talk about your business and go through what we call a discovery call to determine if SAP Business One Cloud is a fit for your business. So with that, I'm going to stop the formal presentation, give it back to Andy to see if we have any questions from the audience.
Thank you very much, Jerry. That was a great presentation. Give me just 1 second and I'll check the chat. Okay, it looks like we had a question come in. Jerry, are there any functionality or performance differences in running cloud versus on-premise?
Okay, that's a great question. We get that question a lot. And actually, the functionality of Business One in the cloud versus on-premise is exactly the same. You're not going to lose any capability. Of course, there are some differences in how things are set up, but from an end user perspective, you're not going to see any functionality differences. So you're not going to lose anything by going into the cloud. And from a performance perspective, we've actually have a lot of customers who get much better performance in the cloud environment. Because again, it's when you look at all the variables that go into the performance of an on-premise system, our cloud providers for Business One are experts in scaling and in performance tuning the SAP Business One system, and so they get the peak performance out of the SAP software. And so a lot of times we actually see better performance in the cloud than we do for on-premise. But at the very least, it's not going to be worse, but in most cases, it's better.
Yeah, excellent. Yep, faster, stronger. Let me check the chat. Okay, one more question. If you currently have Business One today, what are your options for migrating to the cloud?
Okay, again, good question, and we do have a lot of customers who are doing that. And so essentially it's a pretty seamless transition. So if you're looking to move your existing Business One system into the cloud, essentially what we would do is analyze what your current system looks like, the size, all the add-ons and integrations and things that you might have with that to make a recommendation as to whether we need to go into a single or multi-tenant environment. And the way that SAP is structured, we basically can pick up your database and move it into the cloud. So we would do that, create your environment in the cloud environment, let you give you access to that, go through all the testing and get all your users set up and everything, get everything working, and then we would do it again a second time when we were ready to go live. And basically then you would just switch over and go from your on-premise and begin using it in the cloud environment. So it's a fairly simple transition, and we've done it numerous times.
Wonderful. Thumbs up on that one. That's all we have for questions.
Okay, I guess we'll wrap it up. I'll let you finish, Andy.
All right. Well, thank you very much, John. Thank you very much, Jerry.
Thank you.
We will obviously be making a recording available to everyone who signed up for the session and who attended today. And if you have any further questions, we encourage you to reach out. Appreciate your time. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.